What's up guys, and welcome back to Just in Time. So today we're going to be talking about the bystander effect. Now this is a social psychological theory which basically states that the chances of you getting help from people are much less if there are more people around. Now the most frequently cited case of this bystander effect is actually the case of Kitty Genovese. Now this was back in 1964 and I think in New York, was it? Is it in New York? It's in the States most definitely, Queens I think. And it's the case about this woman named Kitty who was stabbed in her own neighborhood, and obviously she was yelling for help, and a lot of the neighbors actually witnessed it. They saw it, they heard it, but nobody called the police until almost an hour after that. So when newspapers caught wind of this story, obviously it was thrown into the, oh my gosh, like moral decay of society, like we're all bad people and stuff like this. But leave it to the psychologists to find out alternative explanations about this. Now the biggest reason for the bystander effect is something called diffusion of responsibility. There's actually three specific reasons or kind of like terms that explain this, but the biggest one to me is diffusion of responsibility. Basically what this means is that the more people there are, everybody's going to be thinking, oh, you're going to do it, I'm going to do it. You know, everybody's just thinking that somebody else is going to do it. It's just like, especially in Malaysia, like if you need to like 让路, let 好车过 if there's a long line, right, you're just gonna, the car behind me will let him go. The car behind me will let him go. And then the car behind is gonna think that. But if it's just you actually have a higher tendency to just let the guy just like stop. You go first, if there's nobody around. But if there's a lot of people around, everybody's gonna assume that the next person is gonna do it. So it never gets done. And over the years, numerous types of experiments have been carried out. Like, will you report somebody who's smoking in a non-smoking zone, or will you report somebody who's littering and stuff like that? And obviously, if you're alone, there's a higher chance for them to do something about it versus if they were to be in a group. The next one is called evaluation apprehension. Now this basically means that you're scared to lose face, especially Asian, especially Asians, we really jaga our face on. So we're very afraid as to what other people will be thinking about us when a certain action is carried out. So if I were to offer help, is it that people are going to make fun of me because I'm like Jesu, like very kaypoh, or is it because of, oh, I'm not particularly well versed with this subject and then I'm trying to offer help and then people will ridicule me? So it's basically very, very hyper aware, let's say that, as to what other people are going to feel about our actions. So we're afraid of getting judged, basically. And last but not least is something called pluralistic ignorance. So this is where we actually rely on the behaviors and actions of other people in order to determine our own actions. It's very much like children actually. So if a kid falls down, he or she will actually look up at the parent or like the authority figure to kind of see how are they reacting. And if the parent is very nonchalant, just taking it chill, the kid is actually less likely to cry. Versus if you were to, oh my god, like kanjong already, right? The kid can actually read the expression on your face and is going to tell them, okay, this is probably kanjong situation, I should probably start crying right now. It's the same thing in case of an emergency or an ambiguous situation, especially in a classroom. I'm sure all students have gone through this when a teacher asks or a lecturer asks, does anybody have any questions? No hands go up, especially for us Asians. We will not ask a question. And what we will do is that we will look around, we scan first. We scan. If anybody asking question. If got people ask question, then suddenly 10,000 questions will come together. But until the first person asks a question, nobody's gonna ask. Because we're like, if nobody's asking a question, so it's like, am I stupid that I don't know? But like, so this is not a difficult question. I shouldn't be asking something in this situation. For me, that was such a relatable example, especially as a student, as an Asian, like we really rely on what are other people doing, and then only we will decide what we want to do. But of course, every time we talk about a certain theory or a fact, we don't want to just talk about problems. We also want to try our best to talk about solutions. So there are 5 stages into like overcoming the bystander effect. So firstly, you have to notice that something is wrong first. And secondly, you then have to define, is this or is this not an emergency? Because once you've defined the severity of the issue, then you can kind of determine whether you should or should not help and whether you want to help or not. So after determining the severity, the third one will be, how responsible do you feel? Do you think that this is something that you should personally get involved in, or you have a particularly moral code or obligation to kind of help out? Fourth is, how can you best offer assistance? So obviously if somebody is choking or suffocating and you do not know how to give CPR or do the Heimlich maneuver, that's not for you to intervene already. So for you to try and resuscitate the fella or for you to try to perform CPR is not the best way to assist them. You could, however, look for somebody who knows how to do that or call 911. And lastly, you then have to decide to act on that particular decision. So we were to create kind of like a flow. The first thing is like noticing that something is wrong, determining whether or not this is an emergency or not. The third one is how personally responsible do you feel in this situation. The fourth one is how can you best offer your assistance. And last one is to decide whether to give your assistance or not. Yep, so that was our assessment of the bystander effect. I really hope you learned something, and do let me know if you want to hear or listen or learn, that's a weird tangent, about other psychological theories, and I will gladly do a little video about them. Also, did you notice my haircut is very new, but I think it makes me look like a kid. I don't like it. But until next time, thanks for tuning in, guys. See ya.